15 seconds. What you do in the first 15 seconds of your work or study session can lead to either 500% productivity or procrastination. I remember sitting at my desk, a scene all too familiar with half-done tasks and looming deadlines. Progress was there, but it felt slow, almost like walking in sand. I needed to move forward effectively. Hey gang! Did you know there is a state of mind as per a study in which you can be 500% more productive? In this same state, you can be 700% more creative and learning rate goes over the roof. Now, how is this related to procrastination? Let me illustrate. If you had to pick one of these two, which one would you pick? Excellent physical fitness or just avoiding illness? What about scoring top marks in an exam or just passing an exam? And if the choice is between seeking a passionate, fulfilling career or just having a job to pay the bills? And finally, what about building meaningful, deep relationships or just avoiding loneliness? Or creating a comfortable financial cushion or just avoiding debt? Which one would you pick? It's amazing and surprising how intuitively we know that choosing a positive goal rather than merely trying to avoid a negative outcome is better. And this is also what research says. Think about it. The key to beating procrastination, which keeps saying tomorrow to your goals, is not just avoiding a negative, which is just trying to do it today, but rather it's super you today, a positive goal, which is a state scientists call flow. In this video, I will achieve two results for you. First, you will learn the 15-second rule, which is a powerful technique to beat procrastination every time and enter the state of super you, which is flow. And remember, that's the key to beat procrastination consistently. Secondly, you will have a simple and practical tool to put this into practice. And literally, this is a tool used by scientists to put rockets in space and by engineers to construct skyscrapers. So it's a powerful and simple technique which I personally use and which you can use to consistently enter into a state of flow. Imagine yourself alone in a small rowboat floating in the vast ocean. The sky above is beginning to darken, and in the distance, ominous clouds are gathering, signaling an approaching storm. You know you need to start rowing towards the shore, to the safety of a distant lighthouse that beckons faintly in the encroaching gloom. Your mind understands the urgency, the absolute necessity of action to avoid the impending danger. Yet there you sit, oars in hand, motionless, playing video games. Well, challenges in life may not present themselves this clearly, but think about it. Nobody is coming to save you unless you start to change your own life. Even if you're moving in the direction you want to move, are you satisfied with the pace? Why do we naturally tend to procrastinate? Procrastination is a tug of war happening in our brain, which is called approach avoidance conflict. Why was I sitting at my desk with half-done tasks and looming deadlines? This is what I observed. I am now at the park. I came here for a walk. I feel excited about working on my side project, a new online course. Once I reach my desk, I just want to start working on it. So here I am. I have opened my laptop. I'm at my desk now, and I'm pretty close to the actual task at hand. But suddenly I feel anxious. There is some resistance. I am staring at a blank page in front of me, needing to start creating the syllabus of the course. I got to do a bit of work that day, but there's no momentum. In fact, I had no plan on how to achieve much. I just showed up with no plan. Some days I have multiple things to work on and I just avoid working on some things, even though I did allocate some time for that particular goal. Now, notice over here that initially when I was far away from the task, when I was in the park, I felt a tendency to start working on my goal, right? So this is what we call the approach tendency. But then when I was at my desk and ready to start working, I felt the tendency to resist or not start. This is called the avoidance tendency. Now, procrastination is a tug of war between these two tendencies, the approach tendency and the avoidance tendency. Notice how procrastination keeps us from acting and thus keeps us away from 5x productivity that we so need, and thus hinders from accessing flow or the super you state. Now, what is hindering you from entering flow and thus beating procrastination? Remember, the goal is to enter flow, not just to not procrastinate, because we always want to focus on a positive outcome rather than avoiding a negative outcome. All right, this is the first thing I change. I'm again at my desk. Today, my aim is to enter flow and not just to not procrastinate. But what is hindering me from entering flow? Now, for this, let's try to understand the flow cycle, which consists of 3 parts: struggle, flow, and then release and recovery. Now, in the struggle phase, that's typically when you start working, you feel a struggle, you start to gather things together, you start to work on the item that you're working, and you feel that struggle. But if you successfully complete this stage with focus, with concentration, if you're present, then you will start to slowly enter the flow state where you will see a huge spike in your productivity, creativity, learning, etc. And then once you're done with your work, you enter the release state, because typically for achieving a goal, you would need multiple work sessions. So in this release, once you're done with one work session, your subconscious mind takes over, and in the back of your mind, you keep improving on what you've done. So that's the release phase. And at the same time, you also recover, you rejuvenate yourself, you refresh yourself, because you spend a lot of energy concentrating on the work. So these are the 3 stages of flow. Now let's try to understand what is hindering you from reaching the stage called flow, which is what we are targeting. The most crucial phase in entering flow, as per research, is the first 15 seconds. Therefore, again, though it's part of the struggle phase, there's a separate name for this called engage. So if you can succeed in the first 15 seconds, which is the engage phase, then you're much more likely to attain flow and thus attain success. Now, what makes the engage phase so difficult? Let's try to understand it. Initially, when you start working, you may feel some initial resistance because of the difficulty of the task. Again, you're just getting started. You may have self-doubt, etc. You may be facing distractions and interruptions, which could distract you and not lead you to a state where you are in full concentration and where you are in the present. Another reason could be that when you get started working, you don't get immediate rewards, because typically whatever we work on takes some time to start yielding rewards. And because you don't get immediate rewards, again, the engage phase starts to become difficult. Another reason for the engage phase to be difficult could be unclear goals or lack of structure. Without this, it becomes challenging to engage deeply with the work at hand. And finally, personal doubts, fear of failure, or lack of confidence, etc. could also make the engage phase very difficult. So we have established that to enter flow, you need to conquer the engage phase, which is the first 15 seconds of your study or work session. Now, how can a person consistently enter into flow every time that person shows up for work? So let's discuss this. The other day, I went to a restaurant. I noticed that their toilet was so clean. Well, what are they doing differently? I thought. Then I saw it. They also were using my newly discovered super tool, a checklist. Let me show you how a carefully curated checklist will help you master the first 15 seconds and sustain you in peak performance over and over again. There are different types of checklists. Remember, a carefully curated checklist is different from a grocery shopping list. Bonus point, you don't need to spend time building one every day. Let me explain. And yes, this is what engineers use to build skyscrapers and scientists use to launch spacecrafts and surgeons use to save lives, as per Atul Gawande, as he states in his powerful book, The Checklist Manifesto. When I start my work, I have a checklist at hand that helps me enter flow, and it has been a game changer. Let's see how I carefully incorporate flow triggers into my checklist, enabling me to consistently enter into flow. This is the checklist I used for making this YouTube video. So I have blocked out time today to work on the script for my next YouTube video. Now I've ensured that I have this checklist with me to enter into flow while working on this script for achieving maximum productivity. Notice how it's just been 2 minutes after I started working, but I already have checked off 2 to-dos on my list, and it's not by accident. Typically, our goals will not yield immediate rewards, but rather require prolonged effort to yield rewards. However, success breeds success, and to enter into flow, I design my checklist intentionally such that within a few seconds or minutes, I will be able to check off some to-dos. That gives me immediate rewards and helps to get the ball rolling and build momentum. Notice how the starting tasks are so easy. These are designed to overcome anxiety and fear. They are also very clear, allowing my brain to solely focus on execution. Secondly, the checklist also ensures challenge skill balance. As I'm focusing on completing one to-do at a time, I find that the task at hand is just slightly above my skill level. This ensures I am motivated and interested. Let me give you 3 techniques to regulate the challenge and the skill level required for a task. If the task at hand is too difficult, break it down into smaller tasks till you feel that the subtask at hand is easy. This removes the resistance and helps you get started and get moving forward. Secondly, if the task at hand is vague in nature, try to spend some time to scope out and clarify what needs to be done. Instead of write script for a YouTube video, break it down into smaller subtasks, such as research what is to be written, or write the first paragraph, write the introduction, design the storyline. Break it down into smaller subtasks and scope it out. This scoping out is also part of breaking down a task into more clear subtasks. This again will bring down the skill level required to get started, and thus it will optimize the balance between the challenge and the skill needed to complete the task. Finally, if you feel that a task is boring, probably it's the challenge aspect is missing. So spice it up a bit to increase the challenge aspect and in that way avoid boredom. Here is a difficult task in my checklist. Notice how I have broken it down to make it easy for me. This ensures that the challenge skill balance is maintained and my brain can solely focus on execution and get going without feeling any resistance. Here is a difficult task in my checklist, and notice how I have broken it down to make it easy for me. Notice that the task at the top level is kind of difficult. It says rewrite the point explaining how to curate a checklist. This has been broken down into a subtask, identify and list down flow triggers. Again, this has been further broken down into 3 subtasks. Now, breaking down tasks in this manner ensures that when I take up a task, the challenge involved in the task is right at the correct level, slightly above my skill level, and thus it helps me execute this without distraction, with complete concentration and motivation, and helps me get moving forward. Now over here you can see another task which was boring because it was not up to my skill level. I wanted to spend time with my son. So notice over here that I have changed it to spend time with my son in a way that I can have fun with him and teach him to build a video game. Over here you can see one more example. Again, the task is spend time with my son. I have spiced it up and increased the challenge level to make it more fun and interesting. And it has been written as spend time with my son and live out a story with Lego blocks with him. In this way, you can regulate either the challenge aspect or the skill aspect and ensure that the task is at the right level, at the right challenge skill balance level, and this will help you easily enter the flow state. Finally, the third aspect is clarity. It's been a productive day. I've got some stuff done. I feel a bit tired, but what's exciting is that I no longer need to keep thinking of what to do next. It's clearly laid out in appropriate chunks in my checklist. I push through doing much more, just focusing on executing one task at a time. Clarity plays a huge role. Keep refining your checklists. This is especially helpful for repetitive tasks. For example, if you're writing a book, you could start with the same checklist for every chapter and keep making your checklists better. If you're making YouTube videos, have a checklist for it and keep making it better. If you're studying for an exam, have a checklist for every topic. Remember, you can use the same checklist that you have for permutations to study statistics as well, because the nature of studying is the same. It could be scope out what is to be studied, identify the subheadings, identify the resources required, solve one problem in the first subheading, etc. Right? And again, this can be the same even if you're studying different topics. This also has the added advantage that you don't need to spend time upfront making checklists. As you keep them growing organically, you just can keep reusing your templates. Also, in case you're just starting out and you're not able to dedicate time to create a checklist upfront, spend the first 5 minutes of your work or study time by outlining the things that you need to do and by starting to build a curated checklist. And as you keep working, and when you hit a point where you don't have sufficient clarity, again take out a few minutes and start working again on your checklist. In this way, you can actually start building a curated checklist right from the get-go. Today is a beautiful Sunday. I blocked out 3 hours and have been making this Lego car with my son. I just kept helping and he himself built the whole model. We were confident to put in the effort as the likelihood of success was high, as I was confident that all the pieces are there and the instructions are clear. What my son and me experienced here is interesting, and it's the same thing that plays out when you are using a checklist. When you have time blocked for an activity you want to do, and by starting off with a carefully curated checklist, with the beginning tasks super easy, ensuring you get a few checks done the first few minutes, you have designed your work study session in a way that has a huge likelihood of success. And because of that, you will find that you yourself will be willing to put in the extra effort to go through the struggle phase to finally reach the flow phase. And that's where you will find success. Check out this video. There is a trick that I use to make my brain to like doing hard things consistently. Why don't you combine that along with the checklist technique that we have discussed in this video? Do remember, the checklist technique will help you enter flow.